Me again, Aaron with KCMO Reacts, and I'm doing a bit of a combo breaker here. I've been talking about the national mythology of Russia and its origins and the split between Ukraine and Russia, but I want to pause for a minute on that. I've done a series of shorts on the Moldova elections, the upcoming Georgia elections. And I want to reflect on just what allows those elections to happen the way that they're able to happen. And that is what's happening in Ukraine right now. And what's happening in Ukraine, I'm going to share a story with you. You may have heard this elsewhere, but it highlights something that we have been told many times by Ukrainians themselves. You have there was a small unit of regular army sitting in a small community in Kursk, being blown all to heck by the Russians, and they're pretty much in danger of being wiped out. So a special team of Ukrainian Marines go in, and they provide cover for the rest of the soldiers to get out, and they themselves become trapped there. So they call in artillery on their location in the last ditch effort to wipe out the vastly superior numbers of Russian soldiers. And at the end of the day, they all return to the Ukrainian lines. Not only that, but they grab another wounded soldier that they found along the way and take him back. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were all injured themselves, but I mean, they called an artillery strike down on their own location after extracting the people they were there to get, in order to inflict many more casualties on the Russians. And those, I mean, that's a specific story, right? But that happens. That kind of thing happens just about every day. Those are the kinds of things that are going on in Ukraine that is keeping the Russian army pinned down. And they have said before, we're not just fighting for us, we're fighting for democracy around the world. And in a very real sense, they are. When Georgia elected a pro-Western government, first Putin tried to be crafty about it, right? We were in the middle of our war on terror and stuff, and he went to the U.S. He called up the White House and he said, "Hey, those Georgians they're not able to control their border, right? They have terrorists setting up camps. We know where those camps are, and something really needs to be done about it." Now, they were expecting the U.S. to turn around and say, "Okay, we'll deal with it. You're right there." No, instead we sent in. We knew that their government was now pro-Western. They were supposed to be on our side, right? Not the side of the terrorists. So we sent in our military to train up the Georgian military so that they could take control of their borders. Now, Georgia's kind of they're in the Caucasus Mountains, right? And the borders there are always porous. But we trained them, and I've heard some stories about that from a guy who was involved in training them, and he didn't think much about the training at the time because it was his job was training them on U.S. equipment that they wouldn't have access to after they left. What happened? Georgia had sent a quarter of their military down to Iraq to assist the coalition down there in Iraq. And when that happened, because Putin didn't get the green light from the U.S. like he expected to take control of the situation, he staged an invasion of Georgia and forced the government there out and put his own people back in charge. That is what it's like living next to Russia. Democracy doesn't happen. Belarus is another example, just north of Ukraine, and right next to Russia, and their president was famously labeled as Europe's last dictator, and he is firmly a pawn of Putin. Now Lukashenko is actually smarter than Putin is in many ways. He is a survivor. He knows the limits of his power. He knows how to use his power, and he knows how to stay out of situations that are untenable, which is why he has not participated in the invasion of Ukraine at all. And he lets Russia quarter their troops there and do airstrikes from Belarus, but that's because the last time that they held elections in Belarus, he lost. I mean, the official story was that he won, but the unofficial story is everybody knew that the game was being rigged, so they took pictures of their ballots, and they got together when the results were announced. And he had like 97% of the votes or something ridiculous like that, and pretty much everybody knew that wasn't the case. Lukashenko's army refused to defend him. They said, no, we won't turn our guns on our own people like that. So Russia had to send in troops to sit there and babysit Lukashenko, keep him in power, rather than allowing the democratically elected rightful president from taking office. She's now, I think, in Lithuania or something like that. One of the either Poland or one of the Baltic states. I want to say Lithuania, but for some reason my mind always goes to Lithuania, so that may not be exactly where she is. But anyway, there's a government in exile there, and it's widely accepted that Lukashenko actually lost. And the only reason why he's still there is because the Russian military saved his butt. That's what it means to be living next to Russia. When Ukraine had their what they're now calling the Revolution of Dignity in 2014, and chased Putin's pet back to Russia, and elected a new government that was pro-Western. And this was not the first time that they'd elected a pro-Western government. This is the first time that it was the first time that it really kind of stuck. They weren't immediately ousted by Russia, but instead they lost. Russia announced that eastern parts of Ukraine were being recognized as independent countries, and later on in 2023 they held a referendum to incorporate them into the Russian country itself. Same thing with Crimea. And that is what it means to be living next to Russia, and to make decisions that are not what Putin wants. He invades. But right now, Russia doesn't have an army. Putin feels about Moldova the same way he feels about Ukraine, the same way he feels about Belarus, the same way he feels about Georgia, the same way that he feels about Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, or Estonia. You know, these are all countries that he feels he should control. He feels that way all the way over to Berlin. You know, Putin actually, funny story, he actually was in Berlin. He was in East Germany as a member of the KGB when the Soviet Union fell apart, when the Iron Wall came down. He had to run back to Russia, and that really stuck with him. He still feels that Berlin should be under the control of Russia, and he wants to make it that way. And to live next to Russia is to know that if you vote for an improvement in your society, it is to invite Russia's military in to crush you and your family. And Ukraine's actions and you know, the support of everybody else as well. But what Ukraine has done has been to pin down the Russian army so that Moldova can have a shot at joining the EU, so that Georgia has a shot at breaking free of Putin's grasp. You know, the only reason why Belarus isn't in open armed revolt is that Russia has more soldiers there than Belarus does, and they're being pinned down by the people of Belarus because they can't be used to invade Ukraine. So it kind of works both ways, right? But that is when Ukraine says we're fighting for everybody else. They are, and that's why it's very important for us to support them politically, financially when we're able to. You know, at least, you know, pay attention to them. You know, so and you know, recognize what they're doing. And I mean, these stories that I hear coming out of the front lines, you know, stories that are backed up by video evidence on Telegram channels, you know, because both the Russians and the Ukrainians use Telegram quite a bit. They and they post, you know, all sorts of videos that and generally I don't watch the videos because I don't need to see violence, you know. I mean, explosions are always cool, but I don't need to see, you know, 9 Ukrainian POWs being executed by Russians in the field, which is something that they've done multiple times. You know, that's the kind of thing that I don't need. I've been on the internet my whole life. I know the horrible things people do to each other. I know what it looks like. But it's that kind of obstinance, that kind of resistance, that kind of drawing the line in the sand and saying, no, we will stop the Russians no matter what. Because even if something happens to me, if something happens to my family, it means that those people over there are going to be okay. They have a shot at a future. And that's very powerful, you know, and that's why I kind of, in every video there at the end, I have a link in the description to a fundraiser to help them, because I figure that's the least we can do. And as a pro-democracy, pro-freedom channel, right now there are 2 big battles right now. One is the political battle here in the U.S. To determine whether they will be left to Europe, or whether we're gonna step up and continue to support Ukraine and give them more stuff that they need in order to win, not to survive. to win. And there's a difference in that. And that's and I don't want that to be the sole focus of this, but for right now, that's where my heart is. I have other things I want to talk about. There's other things I want to do. But honestly, after Ukraine's done, probably gonna go promote another place where democracy is in trouble. The work is never done. They say that, we have this phrase here, freedom is never free. Well, it's not. Freedom constantly requires work. It requires vigilance. We've come so close to losing that. If you look at, the Plan 2025, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So close to losing it here, because we have not been vigilant. And honestly, I've been a part of not being vigilant myself. And I'm here doing this because I said no more. I'm done not being vigilant. I'm done not talking about the problems that I see. I'm done with just accepting that things are the way they are and that they're not going to change, because they can. They can, and they have to. They have to, because we are better than this. We have our problems, but we are better than this. We're better than this as a country. We're better than this as a society, as a culture. We can do a lot of things to help people in this world, above and beyond what we already do. And that will benefit us. The reason why we have so many people trying to get into the U.S. is largely due to our own actions, destabilizing governments decades ago, and continuing to destabilize governments in order to try to promote our own agendas and not just one agenda, but multiple agendas, depending where we're talking. And we can leave that behind. We can leave that. We will always live with that as part of ourselves, but we live with other stuff as well. We tend not to. We recognize the faults that we have, the faults we've had in the past, and we strive to fix them. We strive to be better. And that's why I encourage everybody who watches my videos to leave a comment about something that you've done to help somebody else in the last week. Someone outside of yourself, outside of your immediate family. Because I want people to be thinking about that. Because that's how we become better, in my view. If you want to support what I'm doing, like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be returning more to kind of what brought us here, what brought the world to this point. I'll be doing more of that. I'll be doing more shorts on pro-democracy stuff. So subscribe to catch all that. I have a new play. I put all the mythology, all of the national mythology, Ukrainian, Russian stuff into a playlist, so it's easier to find. So I can put in other videos like this, and kind of keep it contained there for people who want to look at all that as a series, which I hope they do eventually. And I'm not nearly done with it. I have like at least as many videos to do on that as I've done already, but I try to keep them to 20 minutes. So I'm trying desperately to keep this at 20 minutes. Go out there, vote, get it over with, vote, and do something good for someone else. And I'll see you the next time. Thanks for watching.